Hey y'all, it's your girl Mariah Sincere, and I am back with another bomb live. For those of y'all who do not know who I am, I'm a self-love coach who specializes in helping people to radically transform their lives. I also do social and political commentary, which is what we're going to get into today. Guys, Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI, resigned. Um, I'm not surprised that he resigned. Give me one second. I'm not surprised that he resigned because he actually talked about this. Do y'all remember more towards the beginning of the year when Trump first took office and then he came out and there was that whole scandal with Pam Bondi and then Donald Trump saying that the Epstein files were a Democrat hoax and Dan Bongino was threatening to resign then. Do y'all remember that rumor came out? Well, now it looks like he has officially resigned. Now, I've given my opinion on this. I don't think that Donald Trump, and I'm saying this like, I'm not saying this is like a super Trump, like there's no way he could do any wrong. I'm saying this as somebody who has a really good spirit of discernment in these type of things, and I just don't get pedophile from him. Not only that, nobody has came out and accused Donald Trump. Like, no, y'all have to think about it like this. Before Donald Trump even ran for president, people were being accused of being PDF files. So this has nothing to do with me being a Trump supporter or me being a conservative. I'm saying that whole time Trump ran the first time, when he ran against Joe Biden, nobody came out and accused him of anything. And that's just the facts and the reality of the matter. Matter of fact, Virginia Dufresne, who is now passed away, said that he was around Jeffrey Epstein, but he had never been inappropriate with her. And it's been rumored more so that Donald Trump fell out with Jeffrey Epstein once he realized he was a weirdo, right? So I'm not saying this as somebody who's just a diehard Trump supporter. I don't support PDF files. I feel like if enough evidence came out to where I would have to at least question it, then you would be hearing something completely different from me. What I will say is that I don't think that those files were a Democrat hoax. As a matter of fact, the Democrats weren't even talking about the Jeffrey Epstein files. Let's be clear here. Democrats don't care about child trafficking. They don't, because if they cared about child trafficking, then they would want a secure border, because that is how most of the child trafficking happens in the United States. And even when I try to bring this up to Democrats in face-to-face conversations, they just react like this, la 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 la. I can't hear you. Like, when it comes to child trafficking, Democrats are Ray Charles to it. The Epstein files are a convenient political tool. None of them cared about it when Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were in office. The Democrats weren't asking Kamala Harris, hey, if you get in office, are you going to release the Epstein files? No, that was never. Matter of fact, she wouldn't have accepted an interview where she knew she would be asked that question. I'm pretty sure that was one of the questions that was off the table when she got interviewed, right? So the Democrats don't care about Jeffrey Epstein. They don't care about child trafficking. This is all to further their narrative that Donald Trump is an evil man and that the right supports a PDF file, even though they have no evidence to prove that, right? And so again, I just don't believe that he was involved. None of the victims are saying that he is involved. None of the victims who have done interviews or written about their experiences beforehand has ever said that he's done anything inappropriate with them. So it just is what it is. Until I see more evidence to prove that he was involved, then, I will change my mind on that. I'm open to changing my mind. With that said, I've told y'all what I think it is. I think that when Donald Trump got into this office this second time, that his life was threatened. And not just his life. Y'all have to understand, it's not just him. They can make his children go away. They can wipe out his entire family and the generations that are to come. Okay. They can make the Trumps disappear. So when you're in a position where it's not just my life is on the line, but I have my children and my grandchildren to consider, then you're going to put them first. Any responsible person is going to put their family first. It just is what it is. Hey, J-Man TV, how are you? Thank you for coming in the live. Like the like button. Yeah, I'm talking about how Dan Bongino just resigned as the director of the FBI. I think it was a matter of integrity. I don't believe that the Epstein files are a Democrat hoax. I do believe that people on both sides of the aisle are in those files. I don't think Donald Trump is a pedophile and touched any of those kids. I don't think that's the reason why he didn't release the files. I don't think that's the reason why he's been running interference for Benjamin Netanyahu. I don't think that's the reason why. I think that his life and his family's life has been threatened. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. And I said this before, I'll say it again. If you're going to go into that type of office, it's not for people who have something to lose. The presidency, being the director of the FBI, being the attorney general, anything like that, you can't go into those type of positions and have a family. Because everybody has a price, and it might not be money. It just might be that you are protecting the lives of your loved ones. Trump's second term is not it. No, not a. I mean, here's the thing, because I'm of this mind about it. I don't necessarily feel like we picked the lesser of two evils, and I don't necessarily agree with people conflating it as it's two sides of the same coin. In some instances, it is. But what I will say that Donald Trump has done very well is that he's been very good on immigration policy. And this is the consequence. This is a situation where we had wide open borders. We had mass trafficking of children across the borders. And it wasn't just, Democrats like to put this narrative out there that, oh, well, these people are flooding across the border and they're only working in fields and cleaning toilets. No, there has been countless story after countless story of these truck drivers getting into these accidents because they're making these crazy U-turns. They're driving like the traffic rules don't exist, and then they're getting stopped and they can't even speak English. So you had our American truck drivers who basically saw their wages fall. And they already, people think truck drivers make a lot of money, but they have a lot of overhead too. And then now you're having to compete with people who will work for pennies on the dollar. And then they can't even speak English. And then that's causing accidents, causing truck drivers to be out here scraping to survive. That wasn't just the only field. I told you I used to work in the club. Y'all know what kind of club I'm talking about. And it got to the point where, when I first started working there, we did have some Cuban girls. It kind of just got started. So they have started trafficking the Cuban girls in the club. And you have a lot of girls, believe it or not, only work in the club, they get their money and they go home. They're not engaging in any type of extracurricular activities. You get these girls that come from these third world countries where they will give head for $5. And then you have a situation where women who are coming to work, being classy, following the rules, not engaging in, y'all know what I'm talking about, have to deal with trying to negotiate prices for a dance or conversation with girls who are literally walking around with a purse full of rubbers in their bags, and they're just go. This was happening. So a lot of y'all might not care about the young girls working in the clubs, but basically they had just started turning into brothels, and the American girls had to leave. And guess what? The girls that were coming from these impoverished countries, they were robbing the men, they were drugging the men. It was so many men who, at the end of every night, several men, oh, she stole my wallet, she stole this and that, she stole, and we're knowing that they did it. Trump has sold out MAGA just like Obama sold out. He won't release Epstein files because he's Israel's hoe, plain and simple. I mean, yeah. I mean, at this point, I think that's quite obvious. America is not a sovereign country. If we can't tell another foreign government to go to hell every time they feel like we should go to war. I told y'all before that we send Israel $3.4 billion every year for their military. Now, if you get $3.4 billion every year for your military, first of all, how are you a sovereign government and you can't even fund your own military? Let's start there. Do you even deserve, like, people might say this is anti whatever, but I feel like if you can't fund your own military, then you don't deserve to be your own sovereign government. If we have to bankroll, we're basically giving you welfare for your military every year. Yeah, we have to do what you say. And then if we're giving you that much money, you should be able to run your own military operations without needing help from us. So you can't say you're MAGA in America first, and we're sending another foreign nation billions of dollars for their military while we have homeless veterans on the street over here in the United States. And to that point, like, I understand what the left says when they're like, okay, well, we can fund all these wars, but y'all can't help the poor over here. And you got to give it to them. That makes absolute sense. The right has got to call this out more. Illegal truck drivers work for less, making it tough on Americans, right? And that's what I'm saying. That's in every sector, Mitch, in every sector. And again, the Democrat talking point is that they're only coming over here working jobs that Americans don't want, and that's not true. Another thing that was happening too, I've said this before, this is another reason why you would even see other illegal immigrants, believe it or not, supporting Donald Trump. Because let's say you had like, for example, I have a friend who does countertops, and he's in DACA. He's on the DACA program. His mom brought him over here, I think when he was like 3, illegally, which, I'll be honest, I don't support illegal immigration. I do think that particular group of people should get a pass. I'm not saying the new ones. Like, if you came with your child in the last 4 years, y'all still got time to go back home and readjust. But somebody who brought their child over here when they were 3 and they've been here all the way up until they're like, these people are like 30 now, and they had to grow up here because they had to live with their parents. I do think they should be provided a path to amnesty. And a lot of them have assimilated. They are culturally as American as I am. But anyway, I have a friend that does countertops, and imagine you have spent years perfecting your craft, and somebody new comes across the border and they're willing to do what you have been a professional at doing, that you put your time, sweat, and tears doing. Now you have to compete with these new people who are desperate, who can't even speak English. You speak English, you perfected your craft, you know your clientele, you do a good job. You have these people who are going to do the job at a fraction of the cost. So it was making it hard for them. So a lot of people were saying things like, oh, these Latinos want to be white. And it's like, no, y'all don't understand. This has an effect on the job market. it has nothing to do with race. He's got this stupid Venezuelan policy that's going to blow up in his face. Watch. Cartels will benefit greatly from overthrow Maduro, just like Iran benefited greatly from the overthrow of Saddam Hussein. So, J-Man, I'm in Latin America, and I actually think I think he's making the right move with that. And believe it or not, most of the people down here want to see Maduro overthrown. I think you're going to have certain elements of the cartel that are still going to exist. For example, the Colombian cartel is not going away, but part of the reason why they're not going away is because they're not stupid. They're not over here in Colombia, they're not mass slaughtering their people just because they can, like the cartels in Mexico are doing. So because of that, you don't have a big push or a big movement for the government to do something about the cartels like there is in Mexico. Like just a couple weeks ago, like they had to put fences around the presidential palace because they was finna do something to Claudia Sheinbaum, right? But in Colombia, the situation is different. The cartels are, you could be in a room with a cartel member in Colombia and you would never know. They're like businessmen, they're very classy, very well educated. They're not men who grew up in the hood. These are men from well to do middle class backgrounds, and they don't go around terrorizing their people for no reason. So I don't think he'll be able to. I mean, let's be clear. He could if he wanted to. I just don't think that's gonna happen. What up, Will's tumbling? We funded Israel, who in turn funds Congress to vote their way. Exactly. It makes no sense. So, I mean, I 1000%. Honestly, I don't see how Dan Bongino was able to make it to the end of the year. And I think the Republicans have a problem on their hand. And why do they have a problem on their hand? Because a lot of people vote with their emotions. Me personally, y'all know I used to be a Democrat. I would never go back to the Democrat Party, not in the currents. They would have to do so much repairing. They would have to gain my trust back. And I just know after 3 rigged primaries, one of which at the very end, they rigged the primaries, then swapped the candidate out at the end. I mean, it's just, I don't trust them. I don't trust them. I don't trust anybody in that party to actually have the balls to stand up for what's right. And not just that, I don't agree with the policies anymore. I just don't. The math does not math with their policies. Everything is about, I want to make myself feel like I'm a good person, and nothing is about common sense. Like your common sense should tell you that it's not safe to have wide open borders and have millions of people flood your country unvetted. Your common sense should tell you that the crime rate is going to go up, especially if you consider the crime rate of the countries from which they're coming from. And that's just the reality of the matter. I already told y'all in Mexico, they have more deaths from gun violence, and guns are illegal in Mexico. They literally have one gun shop in Mexico. How are you in a country where guns are illegal and your gun violence surpasses the United States? And dang near everybody has a gun. Okay. Miriam Adelson is Queen of American Israel. Protect Claudia, my boo, at all costs. You know she a cartel. That's a narco president. Definitely. Definitely. Okay. So I'm gonna read this. I'm not gonna pull it up on my screen because I don't want to get a copyright. So I'm gonna read what CNN is reporting. Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino is stepping down soon from the job after 8 months marked by clashes with his boss, Attorney General Pamela Bondi, and fighting off the conspiracies he once fueled. President Donald Trump told reporters Wednesday that Bongino is leaving his position soon after Bongino posted on X that he'd do so in January. I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January. I want to thank President Trump, AG Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you, my fellow Americans, for the privilege to serve you, Bongino wrote. God bless America and all those who defend her. Before the president remarked Wednesday, Bongino was seen at a gingerbread house decorating contest at FBI headquarters. Oh, Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show, Trump told reporters earlier at Joint Base Andrews, referring to Bongino's radio show. No, he just saw too much. He saw too much, and I think it messed with him. Honestly and truly, guys, I think you have to, what would you do if you were in that position? We don't know what they know. And we're just talking about the Epstein files. Y'all, we ain't even getting into the whole alien stuff. We ain't even talked about that. Sometimes I think we're missing the mark. Like we're not seeing the forest for the trees here. Okay, inside the White House and FBI, it has been long been believed that Bongino would depart after a year. In recent days, Andrew Bailey, the co-deputy director, has taken over some of the meetings that Bongino was expected to handle. Bongino has complained both publicly and privately about the tedious nature of the job and the toll it took on his personal life. I bet. And then again, can you even like imagine trying to be married or date and you work that kind of job? You're always concerned that the person that you love is in danger because they are. Some FBI officials believe Bongino would depart the agency after the arrest of a suspect in the 2021 pipe bomb case earlier this month. Bongino took a leading role in the case, which he was fixated on before joining the agency, dedicating many of his shows to conspiracy theories that claimed the planting of the pipe bombs near Republican and Democrat Party headquarters on the eve of January 6, 2021 was an inside job. Okay. I'm done reading that. Also, I think another thing that we're leaving out here is the Charlie Kirk case. Now, our girl Candace has been on a rampage. She met with Erica Kirk. What was that, 2 days ago? Y'all know they've been publicly going at it. Erica Kirk is dead set on they have the guy in custody, and she wants Candace Owens to stop talking about it on her podcast, even though Candace is coming with receipts. As time passes, she is looking more and more right. They had a meeting. Candace went live on her show today, and she basically said, I was hoping that they would bring some concrete evidence into the meeting that would help me to understand why they believe they had their guy, and they had nothing. They had absolutely nothing. So I don't think Candace is going to stop, but the FBI has very much been a part of that cover up. We know that young boy didn't do it. And that's another thing that I want to talk about tonight. I don't like this. I disagree with Democrat policies, but I think it's very irresponsible, especially of a lot of these YouTubers who don't question that narrative because they feel like it's more convenient to just accept the fact that this was some crazed leftist lunatic so that we can continue to have this infighting in our country between the left and the right. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And I don't believe in simply trying to push this off on the other side to make them seem like crazy people, even though they do enough of that themselves. I think what's more important here is figuring out who did it, which we all know who did it. We all know who ordered the hit. Tulsi really disappointed me too. Yeah, it's disappointing. I'm with Candace all the way. I don't like Tim Black. I know who Tim Black is. I don't like Tim Black. You want to know why I don't like Tim Black? I've got to be all the way honest. I think that Tim Black focuses too much on race. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know I don't go for that at all. I don't care about none of that. I don't care about none of that. We are Americans, especially if you're African American. We are Americans. We've been over here for hundreds of years now. It's time for us to just kind of accept certain things and move on. Okay. I'm gonna go to TikTok and I'm gonna see what the people are saying about this.
We just got some really shocking news. According to MSNBC, Dan Bongino, the deputy director of the FBI, plans to resign shortly. But that's not the shocking part. The shocking part is that Dan Bongino is one of the fiercest advocates to release the Epstein files. And he told members of his team that he's going to announce his resignation on December 19th. December 19th is the deadline to release the Epstein files. We just got some really shocking news. According to MSNBC,
So I think that this is a liberal leaning TikTok channel. So I'm looking at the comments. Somebody says Dan Bongino had to take a mental health day when he found out his boss is a PDF file. So the job wasn't as
I'm
easy
18 years old and I escaped America.
Somebody says the job wasn't as
We just got
easy
some
as
really
he thought because half of the files is going missing. I mean, I do believe it had to do with the Epstein files, but like I said earlier, I don't believe that Donald Trump touched any of those women, nor have any of the women accused him. Let's be clear. Nobody has came out and named his name. They've named Bill Clinton. They've named Prince Andrew. What's his name? Chris Rock's name got thrown up in the middle of it somewhere. But all people have is like they hung out. They were at parties together. Well, newsflash, rich people hang out together at parties. It's the if you staying for the after party. Savvy Sabs and Tim Black, they are always on the side of the real. I watch Savvy Sabs. It's not that I don't agree with a lot of things that Savvy Sabs or Tim Black says. I just think, like, with Tim Black, for example, he's just too race focused. And at this point, I think it's high time that we moved on from it. And I don't think it works in our favor. For example, when you tell half of America that you think, when you tell white Americans that you think that they owe Black Americans reparations, that doesn't go over well, especially considering the fact that a very large part of that population immigrated here after slavery was already over. For example, my dad's family first came over here in 1980 from Germany. They came over here poor from Germany on the East Coast after slavery. So when you tell people who have that type of background that just off of the strength that they're white, they owe you reparations and that their tax dollars should go to that, that's not going to go over well. If you tell white people whose families didn't own slaves that they owe Black people reparations, they're never going to vote for any candidate that supports that. It's a lost cause. It's a losing cause. It's stupid. And honestly and truly, it isn't fair. It isn't fair.
So what started off with internal conversations, external speculation, and pretty possible rumor, Dan Bongino has confirmed that he plans to step away from his position at the FBI in January. Bongino posted this to X about a half an hour ago, and he gave his pretty standard and professional goodbyes and thank yous in this. I believe there's several reasons for this departure, most notably his disapproval with AG Pam Bondi and the administration's handling of the e-files. He also spoke back in May during an interview about the turmoil that working for this administration has had on his family. He's been very open about that. After his departure, he's expected to go back to his media role at Silverlock Studios, and here's what I'll be curious to see next year. Now, it's possible that he'll have to sign an NDA or a non-disclosure agreement to not be able to talk about classified information, but everything else is off the table. Like, he can talk about anything he wants to. What is he going to say when he's no longer bound to this administration and counting on this administration for a paycheck? Because while it's true that he was a huge supporter of this president before he accepted this role at the FBI, it's also true that the last year has had a very large impact on his family life and his professional life and his personal life. So now coming out of the FBI and back into the public where he can talk more openly about what he wants to talk about, what could we possibly hear? If he's an actual patriot and he loves this country like he says he does, we'll hear the truth.
I think that's an oversimplification. It's not that simple. He's already left the office, and what I believe the problem is that he feels like that job is putting his family's life in danger. Why would he get on a podcast and spill all the beans? Why would he do that? I think it's one thing if you're a podcaster, just think of somebody like me. I'm not nowhere near where Dan Bongino was, but like when you're a little bit out the way, And when you don't have any real consequence as to what's going to happen in the government, that's way different than when you actually get into the office. Now there's a target on your back because now you're a person of credibility. You are an official. So no, he can't go back and get on his podcast and tell the truth. Because if he was going to do that, he would have did it while he was in office. Is what y'all have to understand. If he felt like it was safe for him to do that, he would have did it while he was in office. Not just that, we saw what happened to Edward Snowden. So it's the possibility that he knows information that if he tells, he could get locked up. Guys, I'm not saying this right. I'm saying put yourself in his shoes. Would you just say, to hell with that? I'm going to risk my life for the American people. Meanwhile, you've been in office and half of the country wants something bad happen to you. Half of the country believe something bad should happen to you. You have fellow Americans sending you death threats all the time. So after you've experienced that, do you think you would feel so patriotic? Would you feel like these people even deserve me putting my life on the line? Even though, no, it's not all of us, but it's enough to where it can affect you mentally. I think it's institutions that should pay reparations and big banks from corporations. Where do you think they get the money from? It don't come from thin air. It comes from us. Like when people say, oh, the government should pay reparations. The government, they don't have a job. I mean, their job is collecting taxes from us and redistributing our money. So the American people pay those reparations. Not just that, they benefited from slavery. We benefited from slavery too. I'm benefiting from slavery. Let me tell you how. A lot of Black people don't think about it like this, but think about it like this. If your ancestors never came over as slaves, where would you be? Be for real. Go look at these countries right now where our ancestors came. A lot of them don't have running water. They don't have central heating and cooling. A lot of them barely have access to food. They might as well be slaves the way they working for shillings and pennies and chump change every day. In a lot of these countries, the women have to resort to prostitution for little to nothing just to survive. So my point in the matter is, we benefit from a legacy to where we have things that majority of the world, Black Americans, you think of the poorest Black Americans that you know that live in the hood, and they're living better than like 80% of the people in the world. I promise you that. We benefit from the infrastructure that was built in the United States. You benefit from having a government as corrupt as people think that the United States is. When you leave America and you have to deal with the government and you have to deal with police, you understand that like America, like they do just enough to like America, like when I tell you it gets bad, it gets bad. These countries were ravaged by colonialism. What do you think they were doing before colonial? J-Man, what do you think these people were doing before colonialism? Because let's be clear, the Black people that were sold over here were sold into slavery. The slave trade is still going on in Africa. They just don't sell them to the Europeans. They've always sold them to the Arabs. So those are the primary buyers of African people now. That never stopped. It's just the European countries stopped buying the Africans. The Arabs are still buying the Africans. So obviously in Africa, they had that system set up. Other Black people sold other Black people into slavery for liquor and guns. And that whole time that they were getting whatever they were negotiating, getting whatever with smart leaders. First of all, you don't sell your own into slavery, but they didn't view them as their own. But if they were smart, they would have been saving up their money that they were getting from the Europeans and building up their military and building up their infrastructure. But when you're corrupt and you're looking out for self, you leave room to be invaded. And that's just the way of the world. It's happened for thousands and thousands of years. Stronger societies are able to invade other societies that are already weak and have fucked up priorities. It is what it is. Africans are not all, I didn't say that. The majority are. The majority are. And so you can say Africans are not all poor. The majority are. Not all, the majority are. Even what would be considered I said this before and I'll say it again. Let's take it out of Africa. Let's talk about South America. For those of y'all who don't know, I've been in South America for a year and a half now. In June, it'll be 2 years, right? What they consider to be middle-class amenities is basic stuff in the United States. So, for example, it's not uncommon to meet somebody from a middle-class family in South America, and they don't have reliable hot water. They'll have running water. It just might not be hot. Hot water is a luxury. And then don't go to the poor neighborhoods where they might not have running water or access to electricity at all. And that's very common in Africa. No, not all Africans are poor, but in America, even our most poor people, unless they just couldn't pay the bill that month, at least have access to running water and electricity. And I wish more Americans would travel and see these things. So no, not all Africans are poor, but chances are if you came from a family that got sold into slavery, that your family was poor in Africa. You come from a lineage, like I hate this narrative of, oh, we were kings and queens in Africa. No, the kings and queens sold you. You were nothing. You were nothing. UAE has a mini empire in Africa. It's disgusting. I mean, but it's bad, and I'm not saying it's good. I'm not justifying it. I'm just a realist, and I'm just being all the way honest here. When you have societies and civilizations, because the argument is that Africa was this advanced civilization before colonization, then why couldn't they defend themselves against white people? Because that's not true. It's not true. They've never been an advanced civilization. They didn't even have writing. Yeah, you had some empires in Mali where they had gold. That's way different than having an organized, structured civilization where things work well and you have a military that can defend itself. Those are two completely different things. Being able to find and mine gold and collect gold, that does not require half of the work that it requires to build an organized civilization. So, I say this all the time, and not just to Black people, but to the Hispanics who want to complain, who were like, oh my gosh, we were colonized by the Spanish. You are more than welcome. Like, I'm here in South America, there's plenty of Amazon forest. If you want to live like an indigenous person lived back then, and you want to go, pick berries off of trees and go live with wild animals and build huts and things like that and adobe houses, you can go into Amazon and get lost and nobody will find you. You can go take your family, y'all can go to Amazon rainforest. You can live that indigenous life. And there are many indigenous cultures that are still doing that. But when I start talking to people like that, they don't want to do it. Black people can go back to Africa. They don't want to do that. Matter of fact, if you go back to Africa as a Black American and you're bringing US dollars, you probably are going to live better than most Africans. Africans don't want to go back to Africa. Black people don't want to go back to Africa. Because then you're going to go back to Africa and you're going to understand why they're in the position that they're in. You will understand quickly. You'll start observing some things about their culture. You will start observing things about the people that get into office, the politicians, and you will absolutely understand why they get drugged through the mud left and right by the UN. And it has nothing to do with race, and it has everything to do with culture and the way they conduct themselves. That's is true. They were very advanced. Asian Kush was the shit. Ancient Kush was the shit. What? What? Okay.
UK scholars.
I'm sorry, y'all. I want to talk about something else that I saw today. I want to take this back to immigration. Oh, hold on. Before I move on to that, they won't welcome us back. FBAs get ripped off. Exactly. I talked about this yesterday. Yes, because they don't, again, it goes back to the fact where there's a lot of tribalism in Africa to begin with. They don't see you as a Black American as their long lost cousin. When you go back to Africa, they see you as somebody that they can rip off. That's it. They feel like you have money and they want to get every ounce of dollar that they're going to scam you. They're going to scam you. And a lot of the people who are, this back to Africa movement, if you talk to them long enough, they will tell you about all the stuff that they've been through. There was one woman who said in Tanzania, Black woman, she thought she was going to live in Tanzania. She left. Where did she say she moved to? Kenya. She said in Tanzania, when she would go to the restaurants, the Black restaurant owners would be so upset that they were in her restaurants because they make the restaurants to cater to white people. So yes, they would be upset. And she said the restaurant owner got so pissed off, he put her out the restaurant, but like the whole time he was just agitated that she was in there. So this is how, and y'all can say, oh, it's colonialism taught racism, colonialism taught colorism. No, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. Not in the least bit. I just feel like Black people have always thought white people were superior. Even when I would go to like restaurants in Dallas, if I go to an Ethiopian restaurant, they will serve the white people. These are other African Black people that will serve white people before they serve you. You can't blame white people for that. That's a choice. They are placing more value or feel like they're going to get more money from the white person than you. So they choose to put them above you. And white people did not make us do that. I'm sorry. They didn't. Even if you want to talk about, like, when have you ever in your life heard a white person say light-skinned Black people are better than dark-skinned Black people? That's just not a mentality that they have, or that's not a message that they go around preaching. And even if you take it back to the plantation, the whole issue was people got upset because the light-skinned people were getting treated better. These were the master's kids. Of course they're getting treated better. These are the master's children. What are we talking about here? So look, Jamal, you have to go all the way back to antiquity. At the time that Europeans started buying slaves from Africa, Africa did not have the capability. First of all, they didn't want to. That was the business that they were in, selling slaves. But at the time they got colonized, their civilization was not advanced enough to defend themselves against European invasions. The European societies were far more advanced than they were. And that's just the fact of the matter. So we can go back to ancient time. What does that have to do with the 1500s? What does that have to do with the 1600s? What does that have to do with the 1700s? It has absolutely nothing to do with it. I want to talk to y'all about something that's going on here in South America. So, again, I've said this before. One of Donald Trump's strong points is immigration. Now, I would like to see him have a stronger stance on those H-1B visas. But with that said, I mean, at the very least, he stopped the bleeding in terms of completely shutting the border. Our military is on the border. Now, a lot of people think that America is just this big, bad evil for doing that. But as somebody, again, who's been in South America for a year and a half now, they do not play about immigration at all. They do not. Are there, like in Colombia, for example, are there illegal immigrants? Yes. You have people who can cross the border and, but are there as many as there are in the United States? Absolutely not. And if they find out you're an illegal immigrant, they are going to expel you from the country. So with that said, this week, Ecuador, I'm in Ecuador right now. I came here via plane. I had to go through immigration, answer all these immigration questions. They let it be known, you got to be out the country by this day. Don't play with us. So anyway, in Peru, I was just in Peru about a month and a half ago. And in Peru, they have a lot of legal immigration and some illegal immigration. So they just started expelling a lot of Colombian and Venezuelan illegal immigrants. They're like, y'all gotta go. Well, y'all know Peru and Ecuador share a border. So Ecuador just completely sealed off its border and was like, baby, I don't know where y'all are gonna go, but y'all cannot come over here. So I don't know what Peru is gonna do, because it's kind of like these people are kind of just stuck and lost in translation. But I brought that up to say that, like, you can't play that down here. You can't play that whole illegal immigration. They do not care, because here's the thing about countries in Latin America. They understand that it's a safety concern. Absolutely. Like the way liberals just think that you should just have open borders and people should just move across your border as they please, and that people are just going to get a job and that we're all going to get along and it's going to be great for society. It doesn't work like that. I was in the park here in Ecuador, and all these Colombian men kept walking up to me, begging me for money. And I'm looking at them like, first of all, why are you here? And they're like, oh, I'm trying to get back home to Colombia. And then you're dressed better than me. Because one thing about a Colombian, they're going to look good. One thing about a Colombian, I'm like, you're dressed better than me from head to toe. You don't look poor. You don't look like you're struggling, none of that. But it's like, you're coming over here and you're coming over here to hustle. And it kind of pissed me off, because I'm like, why does every man that keep coming up to me asking me for money Colombian? Because y'all know I live in Colombia. The Colombians are hardworking people. Y'all over here in this other country portraying your country people as beggars. Like, that's probably what Ecuadorians think of y'all now, because y'all got all these men walking around their parks where their kids are trying to play begging for money. So I just wanted to put that out there, that like they don't play that here. That's why a lot of these countries, for example, the Colombian government didn't want to accept their illegal migrants back. And the excuse was, oh, well, we don't like how they got sent back in chains on this military plane. And it's like, no, you don't want to accept them back because you know your best weren't coming. Okay, same thing with Venezuela. They emptied out their prisons, and then they didn't want to take the migrants back. So Trump was like, fine, we'll send them to Africa. Fine by me. Hey, what's up, girl? Yes, a Colombian will always look good. They sure do. Look, I gotta give it to Colombian people, the men and the women. Okay, they gonna make sure when they step out that they're stepping. Okay, even if you see them in gym clothes, they're gonna have some nice gym clothes, clean shoes. You gonna be, if you go to the gym, you ain't gonna never smell a Colombian. You ain't gonna never smell a Colombian. You know, girl, you was just there. I don't know if you rode the public transportation, but in Colombia, you can get on the metro, you can get on the train, you can get on the bus, and it can be packed full of people, sardines. You're not gonna smell not one musty person. In order to find a funky person in Colombia, you literally have to go find a homeless person. Like you gotta go find a homeless person that's out of their mind and is on that shit. And then you will smell somebody. But to just smell somebody just in your day-to-day, the only time you gonna smell funky people in Colombia going about your day-to-day is when you are around Americans and Europeans. I ain't even gonna hold you. When yeah, she knows, I'm telling the truth. Like I remember when I first came to Colombia, a lot of people don't think that I'm American at first. Like even when they know the Spanish is different and they'll ask me where I'm from, they're expecting me to say, not the United States. They're expecting me to say some other Latin American country, Dominican Republic. I've even gotten Arab. I don't get that part. But when I say United States, they're always surprised. And then they start telling me, well, like the gringos that come from there are funky. Like they call us like gringos cochinos, which is like nasty gringos. And they were saying that we don't bathe. I'm like, yes, we do. Yes, we do. You know, African American people, we believe in bathing. Like our grandmamas didn't play that. I went to the side of town where all the gringos stay in El Poblado, and I instantly understood. You got these white kids walking around with no shoes and dreadlocks. You got these y'all know like those white kids who came from like well-to-do families and they want to experience like what the real struggle is. So they go to South America and that's how they conduct themselves. Or when you meet the European men that come from like Germany, they be so funky. I don't think they bathe every day. It don't even just be like American white men are way cleaner than European white men. I don't think they bathe every day over there. No, Uber everywhere, but everyone is clean and dressed nice. Yeah. And they compliment you on how you look. They all thought I was from there or from somewhere else in Latin America. Yeah, because there are plenty of, that's another thing a lot of people in the United States don't know. There are plenty of like, there were more slaves in, which is why I'm always like, this is another thing that we can talk about. I'm always so confused when I hear Hispanic people calling white people colonizers. And I'm like, y'all do know y'all had more slaves in Latin America. The United States imported 200,000 slaves versus like, you got to think of somewhere like Brazil where they imported 5 million and they were just running through slaves. The average lifespan of a slave was like a year there. Okay. So I'm like, y'all have way more Black people from slavery in South America than the United States. The United States had a whole war to end the slave trade. Okay. Y'all Black people over here, you can, girl, if I'm lying, when you were in Colombia, did you see Black business owners? I'm not talking about African Americans. I'm talking about Colombians, Afro-Colombians. Did you see African Colombian doctors? Did you see Afro-Colombian pharmacists? Did you see Afro-Colombian store managers? Like in the United States, where you can pretty much go anywhere and see a Black person in position of power, right? It don't necessarily got to be a CEO, but I'm just saying owning their own business, having their own store, something. Did you see a lot of that down there? Then they want to talk about white people. And I'm like, the nerve of y'all, like American white people, at the very least, if you work hard in the United States, you will have an opportunity. You will have an opportunity. Yep, so true. Yeah, Black people in Latin America are down here going through it. They going through it, y'all. So I'm always so amazed when I hear them call white people colonize. And then my whole thing is y'all are mixed race people at that. The majority of y'all are not indigenous, especially if you go somewhere like Colombia or Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and they always talk about white people, and it's like you are mixed with European. You want to go see an indigenous person? Go to Peru. In Peru, you see real indigenous people. Y'all be mixed with colonizer blood and be talking about white people that you're a mixed race. What are you talking about? Do you hate yourself? Racism against blacks in SA is effed up. Yeah. I don't know if you watch Austin Holloman, but he was saying how he was in Brazil. He was saying in Brazil, police would just, if they feel like it, they will just unalive a black person that they randomly stop on the street. And he was saying he got stopped and he thought he was going to lose his life. He said the only thing that stopped him was when they realized he was a Black American. But even he said in Brazil, again, in Brazil, there are way more Black people than in the United States. He said that all he saw Black people in Brazil doing was waiting, being servers, cleaning tables. And they got the nerve to talk about American white people and hate America. And it's like, no, you hate the fact that, so for example, I'm not going to say the country, but there's a country where I'm trying not to talk too much mess because I'm down here and I don't know who watched me. But there is a country where, first of all, a lot of Latin America is very classist. So what do I mean by that? They have stratos. Okay, rich people don't live in the same neighborhoods poor people do, and they won't let you get a job. There's not a lot of upward mobility, and it's so bad that, for example, if they see you talking to the wrong kind of person or hanging out with a person of a lower social status than you could lose friends. In America, we don't have that kind of classism. A rich person can go be friends with a lower class person and they're not going to lose their friends and family over it. That's how bad it is. So it's like now a lot of them are experiencing being priced out because a lot of Americans are coming down there and moving into the rich neighborhoods and they're able to pay more on rent. So now all of a sudden they're mad at white people, calling them colonizers and gentrifiers. And it was like, okay, well, it was cool when you were at the top of the food chain and you could look down on everybody else. Now your real issue is that you're not at the top of the food chain anymore. No, I didn't. All the Afro-Colombians worked in the stores and as security. Yeah. And that's if they'll give them a job. When I went to Comuna 13, I seen the most diversity. Yeah, Comuna 13 has, okay, so for those of y'all who don't know, Comuna 13 is like, it's the hood. Now, it's kind of like become this hotspot for tourism. So they've actually kind of cleaned up a lot of Comuna 13, but I don't know if a lot of y'all watch Narcos. I hate to bring this up because Colombia is so much more than that, right? But that is the neighborhood that Pablo Escobar did a lot of his dealings in, right? So that was a really bad area at one point. It was a lot of unalivings, just a lot of crime. And they've kind of cleaned it up for the tourism aspect, but it's still, let's be clear, it's still very poor. When you go to Comuna 13, that's where you will see majority of the Black people that live in Medellin, in Comuna 13, or maybe the north of Medellin. And then I'm like, oh, dang, I didn't realize there was so many Black people in Medellin. They all live in the hood. They live in the hood. They live together in the hood or the really poor bar. That's where all the Black people are in Medellin. You're talking about Brazil or Argentina or Chile, who has Nazi president backed by America and Israel. No, I'm not just talking about Brazil or Argentina or Chile. I'm talking about all these countries down here. Do you think as a Black person, Jamal, here's the thing, this is what would insulate you as a Black person coming to South America is that you're an American. There's not one country in South America that you can go to and they enjoy the same privileges as a Black American in America. Absolutely not. and they have this access to the same quality of living and opportunities. No. So this has nothing, don't blame America for this. America does not dictate their social America is not telling people, these rich people of higher socioeconomic statuses, to not give Black people opportunities in their country. These are choices that they're making. If you talk to them, you will know that a lot of them don't like Black people, or they say things like Black people don't work, or Black people. If you go on social media, if you spoke Spanish, some of these pages that I follow, the things that they be saying about Black people, America had absolutely nothing to do with that. That was a mentality that existed before U.S. Latin American relations. You have to understand, South America was colonized before we even had our first colony. They had already had cities built in South America, the Spanish, before we even had our first colony in North America. So they had been dealing in the slave trade long before the United States had. And then you also have to understand there's that element of Black people had already been, you have the Moors, Black people had already been in Spain. So my point is the Spanish have a very long history in their dealings with African people. They have that developed independently of the United States of America. So this has nothing to do with Germany. It has nothing to do with the Nazis. None of that. These are long-standing cultural norms and perspectives that developed independently of the United States for a very long time. And again, the United States treats Black people better than a lot of these countries. All of them, not a lot, all of them. Yet they're seeing the real classism now. The colonists have arrived for real, right? And you know what's the crazy thing? The American white people really are not trying to come over there and take over. They just trying to, you know what I'm saying? Because here's the thing. Even like the niñeras, the nannies, they will tell you they prefer to go work for an American family. Because like Americans will give them extra money, give them cash advances, say please when they ask them to do stuff. Baby, the way that they treat the help in Latin America, it's girl, I would deal with a white person any day. And again, I love my Hispanics. I'm not talking about all people. I'm talking about these rich, uppity, like for example, I had a friend who, we're in Colombia, and she's like American. One of her parents is Colombian, and she was saying how like, bruh, all the rich people here are so obsessed with what you have. So she was like, she was going to the gym, and she had to stop going to the gym because it was a really nice gym. She was like, because the whole conversation was about materialism, and then they would ask her, well, what kind of car did you drive when you were in the United States? Like, it's like, so this is what you're determining my worth from. It's like it's a different level of classism. People don't understand, and that's why I don't live over there with them people. I live in a middle class neighborhood with regular working class Colombians who are down to earth. But even then, sometimes they're like, for example, I broke my iPhone. And I had like just a cheap Motorola phone. And part of the reason why I didn't care is because I was like, this phone makes me a target anyway. So it's like, I don't care if people here think I don't have money because like that, yes, please pass me up when you decide that you want to rob somebody, okay? So I don't care about looking good for people. But like even in the middle class neighborhoods, they'll be like, well, why don't you get a new this, or why don't you get a new that, or why don't you, like, it can get materialistic. Yeah. Ray Condor, a white, was talking about how a YouTuber was talking about how the working ladies are complaining that the passport bros smell bad. Yeah. Oh yeah, they do. They tell me that. That's messed up that they treat the housekeepers like that. Girl, they treat them bad. Oh, they treat them terribly. They talk down to them. They treat them terribly. But I had to tell, so I told you I was friends with this girl. She's an American woman. And she was always complaining about racism in America, right? So she was always complaining about racism in America. And it was just, and she was like, oh, we left, part of the reason why we left America was because of racism. And I'm like, looking around like, girl, do you know where you are? I haven't really personally, I haven't dealt with any racism in Colombia, but that's for obvious reasons, y'all. They have a racial kind of like, for example, I'll tell a Colombian that I'm Black, and they'll even call me, like, if I'm darker than them, they'll call me negra. But then when we get to really having a conversation, they'll be like, but you're not Black for real. Like, this is what they say. They be like, you're not Black for real. But I understand why they say that, because they have more of a racial high. It's not like a one drop rule thing there. They have more, like, it's very common for Colombians to have a Black parent and a white parent, or a parent that looks like me and a white parent. And they've just been doing that for generations and generations. So they see race differently. So like this girl from America, this woman from America, this Black woman, she was saying she escaped the United States because of racism, but then she would always be complaining about how the Colombians would just be staring at her because she was Black. They would just be staring at her, looking at her beside this person. And it's like, where did you think that you moved to? Do you think you moved to a place where, do you look around, girl? Look around. The only thing that insulates you from a lot of stuff is that you have money, so you can escape a lot of the problems that the lower class go through. He's Colombian American. Oh, the dude. Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about. But anyways, she was always, so again, going back to this Black American woman, she was always talking about white people. Every time we would get around the other American immigrants, she would always make it a point to like throw shade at the white immigrants, and then like expect them to not say anything to her. And for me, it was just kind of embarrassing, because it's like, don't give it, like, we're not in the United States. Why are you bringing that here? Why are you bringing that baggage here? And why are you being disrespectful? And why are you like, we're the only Black people in this group. Why do you have to bring the energy down, right? So she had a reality check one day. She was talking to some Colombians, and the Colombians were like, a Colombian woman was like, I don't like Americans. She said it to her face. And she was like, no, you're not talking about me. You're not talking about us Black people. You mean you don't like white Americans? And I said, no. She said what she meant. She don't like Americans. Do you think that because your skin is darker than a white person, that she makes an exception to the rule? In her mind, you're just as privileged as a white American. You can try to explain to them slavery this, slavery that. Ma'am, do you think, like, they know African Americans in America have access to hot running water, like all kind of stuff that the average poor person here doesn't? So they see you as a colonizer. I have to keep it real with her. But anyway, I said all that to say this, y'all. She would always talk about how white people this and white people treat Black people so bad. She got a maid who was Afro-Colombian, a Black woman, like a Black Colombian woman. And when I tell you, she talked about this woman like a dog. I'm like, girl, you sound like the slave master. Like, she was like, yeah, she has this and this because of me. This because of me. I did that. You didn't have, like, she was basically on some, like, y'all know how Stevie J did Jocelyn when he was like, I'm gonna send you back to the strip club. Stevie, I ain't never going back. Like, that's how she was acting with the maid. Mind you, the maid was kind of taking advantage and not doing what she was supposed to be doing. But it's like, ma'am, I've never in my life heard any white person dog the help the way you dog in this Black Colombian woman, because you feel like you have improved her life so much that she just it was crazy. It was crazy. I just humble myself and spend money. Yeah, that's how, I mean, that's how you have to kind of do it. Like, you can't come over there. You just kind of look. Colombia can be a very fun place, and like if you're a Black American, you are insulated until you make them mad. You're insulated from a lot of the racism because they already know that you're coming over there with more money than the majority of them, so they know it benefits. They know it benefits them to be nice, so that you will spend with them. And they don't have an opportunity, they don't have any opportunities to give or take from you. So they will be nicer to you. They will try to get to know you, but understand it's because you're American. And then you have some Colombians that aren't racist. They just cool people. The newer generation, they kind of think a little differently. No, why? It was really messed up. And I'm like, you could have, because here's the thing, the maid was doing stuff like leaving early or calling out sick a couple of hours before. And it's like, you could have just let her go. You could just let her go, but you don't have to dog her and like, you ain't got to dog her the way you dogging her. And then she the type to where if she fall out with you or she didn't like your services, she gonna badmouth you to the whole expat community. And I guess I can understand if it was a situation where like this person stole from you, but no, she gonna make sure she stop your opportunities. Again, this is an American Black woman doing this to other Afro-Colombians, but then at the same time trashing white people. It's just crazy. I was like, ma'am, I will go work for a white person before I go work for you. The situation in the UK, I was talking to a friend today. Let me see if I can find some stuff on TikTok. I was talking to a friend today. I was saying an acquaintance that I know from childhood, and she moved to the UK. And it's crazy because I posted that news report on what's going on in Ecuador, and she kind of commented, and she was like, girl, I'm in the UK. There's so much going on right now, but I can't really say much. And I knew why she can't say much, because if you say something about illegal immigration on the internet in the UK and they see it or it gets reported, they're knocking on your door and taking you to jail for hate speech. You're in like, think about this. In the UK, this is Western civilization. If you voice your discontent with mass immigration, they will come find you and take you to jail. That is crazy. But the women can't even walk alone at night. Y'all know the UK has the most, like, I think they have the second most acid attacks. Do y'all know who's perpetuating these acid attacks? It's not the people that are native to the UK. Y'all know what an acid attack is? When people run up on a woman and throw acid in her face to try to make her ugly. What a disgusting woman. Throw that chick away. Yeah, so I mean, I eventually told her, like, bro, we cannot. It was like on the day she was trashing her maid, that was it. I was like, no, we can't be cool. But it was like that, and then like another incident. It was just incident after. She was just not a nice person. I'm just gonna say that, like, not a nice person at all. She probably felt superior because she's American. And that's my point. People don't really care about all the isms they talk about. And a lot of, I'll even say this with a lot of Black people. A lot of Black people genuinely are not concerned with racism. They just want to be at the top of the food chain. You got to think about this. Think about all the American Black college educated liberals, right? Who are always talking about racism. Every opportunity that they get to trash other Black Americans who didn't go to college and make them feel less than, And they do. They do. Any opportunity that they get to bash blue collar, working class African Americans that didn't go to college, they do. So it's not about equity and inclusion. What it's really about is, I hate that I believe that, or I feel that you're at the top, or that I perceive you to have more than me. And I want to be in your spot. That's why a lot of people say, I've heard so many people say, there are enough like African American millionaires to where all of our colleges should be funded, and our neighborhood should have a lot of investment. Well, I've explained to y'all before, first of all, in order for somebody to want to invest in mass in our culture, we have to get it together. You can't expect people to open up stores in your communities and the stores are constantly getting robbed and looted. Or like, for example, I was living in, y'all know, when I was in the United States, I live in a Black neighborhood for most of my life, you know, even before I left here. And I ordered my daughter some shoes. I went to go pick up the shoes from the Foot Locker. Y'all, they're like, oh, we're sorry, we can't have the shoes to you today. Do you want a refund? Somebody came and stole the whole truck. What do you mean they stole the whole? Yeah, they stole the whole FedEx truck. You expect somebody to open up a business in this neighborhood and y'all are stealing FedEx trucks? Then right across the street, I would go get my hair done. It was always somebody, a booster coming in there selling stuff that they stole from the mall, Redbird Mall, right across the street. They would steal stuff from the dollar store that was literally just a few feet away, come in there and resell it. And you expect people to open businesses. So the point I'm making is that I kind of understand why the rich Black people are like, we're not investing in that. But also, once they get to a certain point, they're insulated from a lot of the things that the average working class person experiences. So like, you're no longer their concern. And that's why a lot of them really support the same policies that other rich Americans do. That's no excuse. We should be an example of human dignity and how people should be treated. That's disgraceful. I don't think she was saying making an excuse. And you're right, that is disgraceful. But again, when you're operating at an anger because you feel like, and again, this was a Black woman who came from an upper middle class background. Like, she was one of these Black women who, she wasn't poor. She didn't grow up in the hood. She didn't grow up in a ghetto. She was very well educated, very well traveled. And she had more animosity towards white people and her perceived injustices that she felt like they had done towards her than me. And I actually grew up very poor. Like, it was very common for us to go days without food in the house or not have any lights on. And y'all know, when I was in high school, I was in foster care. And I mean, I have so many more reasons that if I want to pick a reason to be upset with white people and blame them for all of my problems, I could. But like, it's like, I'm grown, I'm mature, and I'm an adult, and I can understand that a lot of what I went through had to do with the decision making of my parents. Nobody told my mother to have 3 kids. Nobody told my mother to have 3 kids with 3 different men, and none of them had no. And none of them were rich. Like, if you want to do that, can one of the men be rich? Nobody told my mom to drop out of high school. It was a lot of decisions that my mother made. And a lot of decisions that her parents made. But it's like, once you get to a certain point, you have to take responsibility. And now as a parent, I can't blame my mother. Y'all get what I'm trying to say? At a certain point, you have to take accountability for your life, or it's never going to turn around. And now you're going to be stuck in generational cycles and curses all because you won't decide to just let the past go to therapy, and then figure out a game plan about how you can improve your life. Because you can't go back. You got to figure out how to move forward. And I think Black people need to understand that until we can do that, we're not going to prosper the way we should be prospering. And it has absolutely nothing to do with white people. Nothing. Of course, I completely agree with you. I would never do that out of respect for myself and the other person. She's girl, I told her she was insecure. You were, I told her she was insecure. She told her I was name calling her. No, that's not a name calling, girl. I'm just telling you the truth about yourself. You have such good perception, because there's so many other things I want to say, but I'm not, because it's not relevant to the discussion. But it was absolutely insecurity. It's like, how do lower class Hispanics come to the USA and try to use skin complexion and hair texture to put themselves above? You know what? A lot of them feel away, because they're like, in my country, you're nothing. Then I come to the United States and you have more. A lot of them, especially the ones that are illegal, they feel away, because they're like, in my country, you're nothing. Now I got to get deported, and you can stay here with the opportunities that I deserve. They don't think about it like, man, we have a history and a legacy in this country. We've contributed to this country. I don't agree with the state of Black American culture now, but what I will say is Black Americans, whether it was via slavery or there were Black people in America that were never slaves, that lived in the North, that had businesses and were inventors and things like that. So it's like, Black people have contributed to this country for centuries. How dare you think that you're owed more than them? And this is why I get upset with Black people who advocate so heavily for illegal immigration. When it's like, man, majority of the people that you're advocating for, if they had their way, you would be at the very bottom of society. And no, it's not all of them, but it's a lot. The first time my daughter ever experienced any real racism, it's so crazy, because I had to explain to my daughter, she's going to an all-Black school, and I'm like, man, these kids here can barely read, but y'all know about slavery, which pissed me off. That's why she homeschooled now. That's why she in homeschool now, right? Now, the first time she ever experienced racism was, we were at a park in Dallas, Texas, and these two little fat Mexican girls, I'll never forget it. They told her, we can't play with you because my grandmother says we can't play with Black people. Now I'm looking at I'm sorry, this might sound mean, but I'm looking at these little girls and I'm like, the nerve of y'all should be glad somebody want to play with y'all. As toe up as y'all look like y'all done ate all tamales. Like, your grandmama don't cook tamales just on Christmas. She cooked tamales year round and y'all eat them every day. And you got the nerve to act like you're too good to play with my beautiful daughter, my beautiful brown skin baby. Are you serious? So she came and she was like, she told me what they said. So I asked the girl, where's your grandma? Is she here? Where's your grandma? She's sitting under the tree. So I said, did you told your granddaughters that they can't play with Black kids? I don't speak it. Tú dijiste que tus niñetas no pueden jugar con los negros. No, nunca lo dije. ¿Estás segura? No estoy muy segura. No, nunca lo dije. Okay, now you ain't never said it. Black America is still an American, and we are world leaders too. We're supposed to represent the real and be able to say stuff nobody else can. We can relate to all people. No, I don't believe Black people can relate to all people. It's certain. I can't even go hold you. It's certain stuff that I done seen. I can't relate. I can't relate. I can't relate. I can't relate. And I don't want to relate. I don't want to relate to everything. Please, they were jealous of your baby because they thought the Mexican boys would look at her. Jealous heifer. Shame on that abuela. Yeah. And y'all, she was built exactly how you probably think she was. But truth be told, my family, Chicago on my dad's side, hate my guts just because racism ain't never been a problem for me. I can easily overcome. Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, they was hating. They was hating. And I'm like, ma'am, you was straight up built like a refrigerator. And you have the nerve to try to tell your granddaughters who they can and cannot play with. It's always them type. It ain't never nobody beautiful. It ain't never nobody good looking. It's always the most unfortunate looking folks that's so mean and trying to be racist. Bad built refrigerator. Girl, yes. Girl, looking straight up like a nevera. That's exactly what she looked like. And I'm like, man, are you serious? She pissed me off. She pissed, and she didn't think somebody. Now I'm gonna come step to you about this. But my point is, that is the first and only time that my daughter ever experienced racism. It wasn't from a white person. It was from a Mexican woman who couldn't speak English in the United States. It'd be different if it was in Mexico. Man, you are. You know what? It pissed me off. I'm sorry. That pissed me off. And that was part of the reason why people were like, well, why didn't you go to Mexico? It's closer. In Mexico, y'all got to understand the history of Mexico is a little bit different. They do have blacker people in the southern part of Mexico, but Mexico became its own country and outlawed slavery. So they're not used to seeing Black folks. They're not used to really interacting with Black folks. And I knew, like, when I came to Colombia, a large part of the population, especially like when you go to the coast or even in parts of Medellin, like, it would be easier for me to blend. I didn't want to go to Mexico and have to deal with them jealous women. Because I have a friend who is beautiful. This is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in life. Dark-skinned Black woman. She looked just like Black Barbie, but like voluptuous Black Barbie. Like, she had the pretty face, the body, the butt, small waist, chichis. She married a Mexican man, went to Mexico, and she was like, their women are always talking shit, always staring at her, asking him why he married a Black woman, as if it's not obvious. Like, look at her. Like, look at her. Do you see? And I'm not even saying that to gas her up. Like, this woman was like something out of a dream, okay? And then just in classy. Like, what do you mean? Why did he marry her? Why was she sitting under a tree? OMG, we were at the park. So she just, she wanted to sit under a tree. I remember another time, I swear, most of the time that I've heard racism towards Black people was from like a Mexican. It's always like a Mexican, like. And I love Mexican people. Don't get me wrong. I don't like the racist ones. So anyway, we were like, I was driving Uber one time. This is when I was teaching. I would drive Uber. And I picked up this man. It was a white man and a Mexican woman. And the white man was going through a divorce from his Black wife. So he was trying to get over his heartbreak. So he's dating this Mexican woman. But she wants more than him. She wants him to take her seriously, but he really want to be with his wife. You could tell. And she's insecure about it, right? So she's like, oh yeah, she's drunk. She drunk as hell. They in the back. I think she thought I was Hispanic too. So she started talking, and then she was like, yeah, he don't want to be with me because he wants to be with his dark me. This is exactly what she said. Oh, you want to be with this ugly, dark meat. Girl, she was talking shit. So I had to put her out the car. Like, ma'am, no, ma'am. You will not. As much as I hold Black people accountable for our culture, like, ma'am, you are not going to sit up here and talk about Black women. First of all, look at how you look. Again, this is another refrigerator. It's another refrigerator built woman. And you want to make yourself feel superior just because your skin is lighter than hers? When I'm like, ma'am, it don't get worse than you. And you want to talk about her just because she's Black. So that's why I don't really take Hispanic people seriously when they're always dogging white people and calling white people racist. Because I know how y'all act when y'all feel like you're in a position above somebody. I know how y'all behave. Like, let's not do this. I want to visit and you can take me around. I'll be good gringo. I promise. Yeah, I mean, you can visit. You just gotta like get your own place and then we meet up. For sure. Wow, yeah. But it's not expensive to come stay in Colombia for a few days. It's really not. It's the plane ticket ain't even expensive. Yeah, girl, and that's what I'm saying. I have heard the stuff so many Hispanic people say that like it ain't. I feel like white people ain't half as bad. White Anglo Americans, because like white people at least will try to like. I'll say this about white Americans. And it's to their detriment sometimes. White Americans will at least try to hear Black people out and apologize for the things that they say and the things that they do and try to be mindful and things like that. There was another incident. I was talking about this yesterday. This is in Colombia. This Black woman went to the nail shop and she's a full Black American woman. I guess her and the shop owner had a dispute over the prices. And she literally texted her, negra fea. That means ugly Black woman. So like I've never experienced that, but I've seen it. And she sent the screenshots and everything and just what that lady said. Not expensive at all. I'll be back soon. Yeah, it's a nice little getaway. It's going up, but it's still affordable. I mean, but anywhere you travel, you're going to spend money. So compared to what you would spend in other places, Colombia is honestly, it's cheaper to go to me. It's cheaper to go to Colombia than to travel somewhere else in the United States. Because like, if you want to come to Colombia for like a week, and let's say you want to stay at a real nice Airbnb, you might pay $250 to $300 for the week. And that's like, and then if you pay for a flight, you can get a flight. You can find a flight for like under $400 to come to Colombia. So like already you at like $700, right? And then I don't know how much you're gonna eat, but I mean, me personally, I can eat in Colombia. If you're just going out spending money because you're doing the tourist stuff, you might not even spend $200 on food that week. It kind of just depends on what you're doing. Me, because I live more locally, I spend like a week for me and my daughter. I spend about $100 on food. Most white people are very nice. It's only in the spirit of competition and politics that things get testy. Yeah, but you got to look at it like this. They're competing against other white people too. You know, I feel like with them, it's less of a race thing and more of a money thing. Even white people in the South are very, very. I feel like Southern white people, Louisiana white people, say they're the best kind. Them the best kind, and they can cook. Even white people in the South. Okay, you read that? No, she texted her that, but she had like, who was gonna say something? And that's the point I try to make to like Black Americans. Is like, if somebody does that, take somebody that in the United States, you're losing your job. Your life is ruined, and that gets put out there. In Latin America, they don't care. Somebody could send that to her boss, and the boss probably gonna say the same thing. They do not care. There's no like recourse for people saying those kind of things to you. Like technically, it's against the law, but like laws don't matter if people don't care. You understand? Like, so if you get offended about that, or offended by somebody calling you a name, they're gonna look at you like you're being sensitive. They don't care, and they're gonna continue about their business. Is it just me, or is yeah, girl, Exito is expensive. All of those markets. When you go to Colombia, girl, hopefully next time you come on there, I will show you how to grocery shop locally. Because like locals only go to Exito to like, I think at a convenience, but like if you want to grocery shop, like you gotta go to, like I always, here's how you do it. But the problem is it's time consuming, but it's the cheapest way to do it. You want meat, go to the carniceria. If you want fruit and vegetables, go to the fruteria. You gotta go to each individual store to get what you want. You don't go to the supermarket there. That's why the supermarkets haven't really taken over in Latin America like they did in the United States. See, what Walmart did is they did predatory prices. They lowered their prices to where the mom and pop shops couldn't compete. In Latin America, the mom and pop shops are still much cheaper than the supermarkets or the big box stores. So people still go there, and they're not going out of business. So you got to go there. You got to go to the Centro Mayorista. You got to go to places like that. I have to show you. Cool. Looking forward to it. Yeah, you have to. Girl, like for me, when I go out to eat lunch in Colombia, girl, so I told you I go to that place, Boteros, and me and my daughter eat for like $5, $6, and we both get a plate that has rice and arepa, a protein, a soup, and a drink. $2.50 each of us. I don't be on Lorella's and El Poblado spending $20 on lunch. No, ma'am. I sure don't. Hell no. I could stay in Texas for that. Here in Ecuador, we go to a place down here. We do the lunch special. It's $3. It's $3 for, like, say if I wanted to get, like today, I had some stewed beef with some rice, a drink, and a salad, and I paid $3. Girl, me being cheap, but it's good, healthy food. You'll lose weight eating like that. I go treat myself every now and then to a nice restaurant in Buena Mesa or El Poblado, but like to do that, like there are gringos who do that on a weekly basis or every night. No, man, I ain't doing it. Hell no. Yes, it was the Exito in Laureles. I stayed over there. Yeah, this, and also the thing, like, to me, in my opinion, everything there is more expensive than Envigado. Just in general, it's just a more expensive area. Anyway, very nice to see you. I gotta get out of here. Much love, Dios Samurai. Oh, well, thank you for popping in, Jamal. I'm about to get out of here too, but I'm gonna come back on here tomorrow. I gotta get up in the morning to work. Very nice talking to you. Yeah. And y'all come back now. You hear? No, but yeah, I'm gonna get off here, guys, because I still got to bathe. I still got to do the dishes, and I got to get up early in the morning to work. But y'all, please leave a like, share my video, whatever. I'm gonna chop this up, parts of this, and upload it tomorrow. All right, y'all have a good night.